That's why I said, the priest shit, the clothes, don't you start the crunchies on me. Don't you fucking start the crunchies on me. We're being possessed again. The poltergeist shit is fucking back. Why are there crunchies? Why is there fucking crunchies? What the fuck is happening? No, we need to take a fucking break. I am not fucking putting up with crunchies this week. This is not fucking happening. And we're back. If there's one thing that I don't do, it's the fucking crunchies. You understand that? We had a whole thing last 2 weeks ago. It's a fucking more than a month ago now. We had the crunchies. We had the satanic thing. Satan was farting through the wires. I don't do Satan's farts through the wires. Not when Desi's got stuff to say. Not when Desi's got stuff to say. Not when Desi's being silent, listening to the people who are trying to lead the city I love. I'm not going to let them be interrupted by the poltergeist. It's not fucking happening. You want to talk about things that are on my level of, on the levels of things that I will not fucking tolerate? That's way the fuck up there. My blood pressure is skyrocketing as we speak. If I had a doctor, he'd probably be, you gotta get this better for your health. I don't even fucking have one. So I guess I gotta be my own doctor. Dr. Desi is telling himself, this is testing your limits. This should be, I should have been alive in the fucking Stone Age. When you just sat around a fire and Desi would have been ranting about, things that would piss me off in the fucking Stone Age. Because anything with wires, anything with electricity, Edison fucked the whole shit up. And now how are we going to blow each other up? We're going to do it through some electronically powered, nuclear powered, whatever the fuck. Look, technology is awful. And did I just fucking drop out? Now it's delayed. Now it's delayed. Now I can't. Now I'm hearing myself 2 seconds later. This is fucking... Ladies and gentlemen, I'm officially fucking... to be honest with you, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Because I have a fucking feeling that in 2 fucking seconds... See, what is that? What is that? What is that? Why? I'm getting little gaps. And it's stopping and it's going and it's stopping and it's going. And I swear to fucking God, I'm going to be speaking for 20 minutes. And everything's going to be going fine. And then all of a sudden, it's going to go... Do you know what it is? It's the fucking fridge. It's the fucking fridge. And you know why the fridge is going up? Because I just cooked fucking chicken. Because God forbid, I didn't cook the fucking chicken. Because it was sitting in there. Then the chicken would go bad. And then it's a whole fucking thing. So I just had to cook the chicken. But I'm not having it now. I'm having it fucking later. Because I'm not hungry now. I just had my fucking breakfast. So I go ahead. I put it in the thing. I put it in the fridge. Now the fridge must have said, oh, it's getting a bit hot in here. Yeah, because there's some fucking chicken in there. So now it's going... And somehow... Because this house is fucking haunted and shit, which is why I'm glad to be getting the fuck out of here. We'll go more into that later. And it's going in the middle again. Once again, I thought we were out of the woods with this. I thought I plugged it in. I'm not a fucking electrician here, but I thought because we had the 3-prong thing, before we had the 2-prong thing, and it was an issue. And that's why you believe the fucking fridge is gonna go, and then I was gonna make its way into this. I don't know how the fuck that works. 3, 2, 1. Are we finally fucking live? Is this actually? Can somebody pinch me? Because this feels like if we're actually working, if we're actually getting this done, something must be wrong. Something must be fucking wrong. Because I swear to fucking God, there's been a month since I've done this. I've had agita because I have no vehicle to express my discontent with just fucking society and existence and all that shit. I haven't had it. I haven't fucking had it. Because the last week in the old spot, we had the poltergeist. The poltergeist itself crawled through the fucking wires. Just as I'm about to sit down and watch the debate, after doing an hour of work just to get the thing to fucking set up and run it in a normal ass fucking way. Because you ask anybody on Google, again, this is supposed to be most technologically forward, whatever. Nobody has a clue about fucking anything. At all. At all. So then that didn't happen. Moving here, downgraded my fucking living circumstances. And then now it's like, whatever. So now I'm fucking looking at you. At least look what we got. This is nice. You see this? You see this? Finally, like, I could be all peppy and happy and like, hey, but it's about fucking time. It's about fucking time. All right? We need to, I'm not saying that I'm, the Scorsese over here. Because I'm not, very clearly. But you a bit of, I don't even know if, because that even, can you say that anymore after he did the snap filter fucking thing with De Niro? Can you really fucking say that anymore? Or did he take himself out of the equation? Listen, in terms of storytelling or whatever, but like in terms of effects, and this is what we're talking about like effects, this actually outdoes fucking Scorsese. And for a budget of fucking zero. Not however many millions they spent to make Robert De Niro look the same exact fucking age. Anyways, that shit's on episode 5. We're finally doing the mayor shit. Finally fucking doing the mayor shit. There's been 5 of them. Haven't seen any of them. Here we go. We're in for a long one. So I'm going to try to keep my mouth shut. We're going to try to get through this, okay? We're going to sit, watch it. The race is tomorrow. The thing, they've been voting all week, but the official thing is tomorrow, right? We're going to watch it. We're going to see the shit that's spewing out of all their mouths, and then we'll see which one is the least fucking egregious, because I think it's honestly gotten to that fucking point. But watch this shit. Ready? Let's get down to business. Oh. Chef's kiss. Okay, here we go. Debate time. That's them. They messed up. See, this is okay. Give it a couple seconds. You're gonna hear this. You're gonna hear that. It's whatever. Come on. Oh my God, Guy.
Thank you.
There we go.
Into the camera and give that family your 30. This one right here.
Thank you.
And give that family your 30-second elevator pitch. Go.
I understand why you were concerned about New York City. You were concerned about your family's safety. As mayor, I will deliver public safety that you expect and deserve. I was just endorsed by the Police Captains Union because they know that we need a mayor who's going to prioritize real change on the ground and get boots on the ground where they can keep us safe. And also, Florida's weather is turning pretty nasty now. I know it was nice a few months ago.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Ms. Morales, same question to you. Please look into the camera and convince that family why they should come back to the city. Your time starts now.
Primeramente, le quiero desear buenas tardes a todos los latinos de Nueva York. Estoy muy orgullosa de ser la primera latina que se ha postulado para la alcaldía de la ciudad. In terms of returning from this crisis, one of the things we have to recognize is that this is also an opportunity for us to confront and face the deeply rooted systemic and structural issues and inequities that have plagued our city for so long, that made it possible to increase the divide in our communities. And this is an opportunity for us to put a stake in the ground and create a new New York City that works for all of us.
So it's like, I speak Spanish.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. The next question will go to Mr. McGuire and Ms. Wiley. Ms. Wiley, we'll begin with you.
We know.
Here's a scenario. A biotech company is considering moving to Queens, bringing 1,000 jobs and economic activity. But with crime and taxes going up, the CEO is a little bit hesitant in demanding tax breaks. We'd like you to give that CEO your 30-second elevator pitch, and please be specific about what you will offer them. Go.
Well, thank you for considering New York. And this is a city that's a great city because we have one of the best workforces in the world, which is why we are one of the largest tech sectors, even adding jobs during COVID. And this is a place where you're going to get the talent because we're going to invest in great public schools and schools that serve all our kids, including hiring 2,500 more teachers to bring class sizes down. I know that you don't need our subsidies or resources to thrive. What we do need is a city that is growing for every last New Yorker.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Mr. McGuire, similar scenario for you, except that biotech company with 1,000 jobs wants to leave the city because of crime and taxes. What would you offer to keep them?
To go
you have 30
where?
seconds to make your pitch.
Hello, I'm Ray McGuire. I understand what it's like to have the anxiety about crime in this city. I have a long-standing track record in the world of business, helping businesses to grow, making sure I got the best talent. We need you. We need you to realize, to make sure that New York's best days are ahead of it. If I look at all the other people who've talked about what they have done, they have failed. I have a track record of delivering, and I will deliver for you. New York is your home. And New Yorkers, I'm going to help make sure that I'm your partner in leading this city forward.
So how much you guys want? How much are you willing to?
Buenas noches a todos. Our next elevator pitch
How much are
is
you willing
for
to
Mr.
raid this safe?
Donovan and Mr. Adams.
Because you can
Mr.
have it.
Adams, next week, a city board will decide
I just need the charts to look
if
good.
nearly 1 million apartments will get a rent freeze. You have advocated against a rent freeze, siding with landlords. What's your
That's a
30-second
shocker.
pitch to the tenant who cannot afford an increase? Tell that tenant, how will you help them? Time starts now.
We need a rent freeze for the over 1 million tenants in the city, and I did not side with the landlords. In fact, what I stated was that we need to look at the small property owners. Those small property owners, 1 to 4 family homes. If you do a rent freeze without ensuring that we don't have a mortgage freeze or compensate them, you're going to have those small property owners lose their home. That is going to be the greatest loss of wealth for Black and brown people in this city. We can't allow that to happen. Let's have a rent freeze for the larger units, but we should not have it for those smaller units.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan, a reverse scenario for you. What do you say to the small landlord who says, with a rent freeze, I cannot afford to maintain their property and pay my bills? How will you help them? You have 30 seconds.
We're on the verge of the worst eviction crisis our city's ever seen. And we need a mayor at this moment who understands how to make housing more affordable in this city and will fight for both our tenants and our small property owners.
We'll bring it down to a median price of $100,000.
Just like I did after the Great Recession, I helped millions of families stay in their homes, but I also know something else, how to make sure that we bring down homelessness in our city. We're seeing a pandemic,
Start charging $100,000 for a house. Listen, I'm with it. If you can figure out how to do it.
These last 8 years, I brought down homelessness by 30% when I was housing commissioner and housing secretary. I can do that again as mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. For Mr. Stringer and Ms. Garcia, we'll apply the elevator pitch to the challenges of police recruiting. Mr. Stringer, police departments across this country are struggling to recruit officers amid a national reckoning on race and law enforcement.
Yeah, that's fucking shocking.
What is your 30-second elevator pitch to convince a young person in the city that they should join the NYPD? Remember, you're speaking directly to a potential young recruit. You have 30 seconds.
What I would say to all our potential recruits is the following. When you come to a new, revised, and reformed police department, you're going to want to serve this great city. First of all, we're going to make sure that we recruit from New York City, and we're going to expand the pool of applicants so that people of color view policing as something that's worthy and honorable. That hasn't been the case, and we have seen over-policing in so many communities of color. It's now time to create a reform mechanism in the police department where people will step up and want to serve. I believe there's a future for all of the recruits, but we have to also change the paradigm of policing in this city.
Thank you, Mr. Stringer. Ms. Garcia, your turn. Same pitch to that potential recruit. You have 30 seconds.
You have an opportunity to come work for the greatest city in the world, to be part of fundamental change and show that we can have a police department that is keeping all of us safe and respecting everyone, regardless of the color of their skin. And this is personally important to me. My brother is African American, and I know the challenges that he's faced. When you are a new recruit, you will be able to walk down the street and engage with community and be part of something great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Candidates, we're going to talk about public safety now, top of mind for New Yorkers, especially the alarming jump in violent crime. You've all made it a top priority, but with some very different strategies. So we've got questions for each of you. You'll have 1 minute to answer. We'll begin with you, Ms. Wiley. You've called for fewer police officers and transferring money away from the NYPD and into programs that address what you've called the root causes of crime, including poverty and mental health. That's a long-term plan. How will you make the city safer immediately?
Why am I watching? You know what I'm realizing now? Why am I watching?
I have been Black all my life, and I know what it's like to fear crime and police violence. And I'm also someone who has worked in academia as a professor of public and urban policy.
That's not good. That's a bad. So you don't want to flaunt. That means I live in fucking fantasy land.
Growing public safety, which starts
Fantasy
day
camp.
one in a Maya Wiley administration. Because here's the reality. We are hiring police officers to do the job of social workers. We are hiring police officers to do the job of psychologists. And
I should have known though what I was saying. I should have known that when I'm watching NBC4 and I have like the local news host. These are the people who tell you about like the fucking groundhog and shit. Like, and that's like, you know, breaking news, and it's always like, you know, either drunk driver and then this, and then, oh yeah, here's this dude who did that. I should have fucking known. But then I guess what's the alternative? The first one was with that guy Errol, who at least, you know, maybe we go. Should we go watch that one instead?
To some aggressive policing tactics,
This I put this I put this one on because this is the most recent one. So I thought, you know, you're farther along in, you know, they had the first couple things to fuck up and do whatever. But am I really supporting like local news? Like, do I
stop and frisk and returning plainclothes
This is a 2-hour
officers
thing,
to
too.
neighborhoods where crime is rising. How will you ensure as mayor that these strategies won't harm Black and brown New Yorkers as they have in the past?
Let's be clear. I don't want to return to anything. I want to show how to use tools correctly. And at least that's very important. And I believe the question that you asked is significant because fighting crime is both intervention and prevention. Prevention, those are the long-term plans that I talk about. Something simple as dyslexia screening. 30% of our inmates in Rikers Island are dyslexic. Let's prevent, but we need intervention. And what does intervention looks like?
So wait. So what does that mean? I'm hoping I understand what he's saying. Which is like, you know, but again, it goes back to the whole thing of getting people services they need and all that kind of shit. Hope he's not saying fucking start rounding up dyslexic people because, you know, I don't think I'm not gonna put those words in his mouth. But this is how this is, you know. Unfortunately, this is how cops think. This is why, you know, it's like, you know, we have a zero crime rate. Well, there's not a crime when we commit a crime. So if we take, you know, we'll talk about like broken windows theory. This is under a Des administration, you know, because we, you know what, like I told you last week, Des is giving the people what they want. Des is giving the people what they want. I'm not, you know what is, because you can go around saying, we need to, we must, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you what you fucking want. And then I'm going to make you realize that you don't fucking want it. It's a group of people, everybody just go around saying, oh, we need to, this is, oh yeah, really? Let's trace out the fucking idea. Let's follow the train of thought here. You know, if it's so toxic to fucking say, let's correct course, and maybe we fucked up by adding cops when we should have added cops. Maybe we fucked up. Just come back a little bit. Just pull it back. If that's out of the question, we'll go in the opposite direction, right? Everybody's a cop. I told you about this last time. That's the new strategy, right? And so going along with that, what we'll do is like, you know, everyone goes like, oh, the broke, like, you know, everyone who's really fucking stupid, who wants to act like they're fucking smart when it comes to this shit, you know, because they have, you know, they have something to fucking cite. They're like, oh yeah, but it's broken windows theory. Yeah, okay, you named the fucking theory. Congratulations, you know a theory. That's fucking great. I should shut my mouth because I have fucking logical arguments that I thought about. But I'm gonna take a back seat because you named the theory. Big hand for you. Broken window. Okay, you want to talk about broken windows there? Okay, how about this then? How about we're going to have just cameras, we'll have a surveillance thing, everything's going to have fucking cameras, and like I said, everyone's going to be a cop too. So we're going to have cops and cameras, and then if a window ever breaks anywhere, anybody within a 2-block radius just gets shot in the fucking head. How about that? There's your broken windows, okay? We'll do it like that. Talk about the prevention is perfect prevention. You'll fucking wipe out hundreds of thousands of people in a year, but it doesn't count as crime. Doesn't count as crime because the cops are going to do it. And there's no repercussions, no nothing. So we'll have that. And then you watch your fucking crime go down then. You fucking watch that shit drop. We're giving the people what they want. This is what you want. This is what you're going to get. Go ahead. Broken windows. Go ahead. Keep throwing them at me. We want this. We want that. You're going to get it. Congratulations.
A plainclothes unit that focus on guns. The overproliferation of guns in our city is destroying us. We just had a shootout today where young people had to dive and duck. We can't wait until we have 3-year-olds shot in Times Square. If we don't get gun violence under control, it's going to stop our economic recovery. And I believe we can do so by preventing the flow of guns in our city.
It's the other way around, guy.
It's
the other way around, guy.
It's the combination of the two that we need.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Yang, you've also advocated for tougher policing. You've also said that you're an outsider with a fresh perspective. Why would New Yorkers be safer with you at the helm of the NYPD than with Eric Adams, who has decades of experience as a cop?
Well, the people you should ask about this are Eric's former colleagues in the Police Captains Union, people who worked with him for years, people who know him best. They just endorsed me to be the next mayor of New York City. They think I'm a better choice than Eric to keep us and our families safe. And the reason for this is that they want someone honest as a partner who will actually follow through. And one of the captains said something to me about why they chose not to endorse Eric. They said that Eric last summer advised New Yorkers to take matters into their own hands and confront their neighbors over illegal fireworks. One woman, Shatavia Walls, took Eric's advice and was killed. And a captain said to me while we were talking about working together, said that this was the most irresponsible thing he'd seen from a public official, and it's not the kind of leadership that he wanted to see in the next mayor.
You know what? It's just so sad. It's you know, because this is what's Adams is winning. So but this is my like he's changing strategy every 2 seconds, depending on who's in charge. And then when he was comfortable, he's like, "Oh yeah, Catherine, you could fucking work for me." And now she's like above him. And now it's like, well, now he's got to, like, you know what it is? So it's like, you know, I guess you attack the guy at number one, but it's just fucking sad. It's sad that a guy who showed up like, you know, his shit don't stink. I got brand new ideas. I'm the new sheriff in town. Now he's resorted to like slinging like insults. He's probably right. Maybe he's right. I don't even fucking know. It's a bit of a fall from grace.
By the firefighters union last week, another group of New Yorkers who literally rush into burning buildings to save our lives and property. I will do everything necessary to keep us and our families safe.
Mr. Yang, thank you. Mr. Adams, would you like to respond briefly?
Yes, he first should follow the rules. Stop means stop. Those captains that he's talking about, they didn't endorse him because they thought he could do a job. They didn't endorse me because I didn't ask for their endorsement, never went in front of them.
NBC reported otherwise. NBC reported you asked for their endorsement, Eric.
Never went in front of them. I said months ago, I'm not taking any of the union's endorsement.
You met with the lieutenants and you called the captains, Eric.
I said I was not going to.
Is that true?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is, Eric.
No, it's not.
You can ask the head of the captains union, Eric. He'll say, yes, you did call.
You know, New Yorkers didn't tune in tonight to hear us fight with each other. They want to know how we're going to fight for them. This is a moment where we have more than 500,000 New Yorkers still out of work.
Here comes Shawnee with the, here's my opportunity. Everybody on this stage is a fucking opportunist. Everybody's a fucking, it's like, you know what? Like, this is why the city needs Desi cakes. Do you understand this? A campaign that's entirely fucking dedicated to not doing any of this shit. Because I don't give a fuck if I get 1% of the vote or if I get fucking elected. Because apparently, what are your options then? What are my options? Oh, I can only get to 14, so I'm gonna start being a bag of shit so I can get the last 10. I'm gonna start doing things I don't want to do. Start doing things that are driving me in the opposite direction of the way I should be going. Start looking the other way on things. Start taking some money from people I shouldn't be taking money from, or some promises. How about go fuck yourself? And if you never get it, well then you know what? It's on the fucking people. At the end of the day, you know, all this shit is on the fucking people. I get it. You know, everybody that gets put into any position of whatever, you know, I understand. But also, you know, so this is running a like we said, a no fucks given mayor's campaign. Okay? If you don't like it, I don't fucking care. Options now. We have the public choice, ranked choice, whatever ranks. It's gonna be like the Oscars. You remember not this fuck, it's all load of shit anyway. Remember the Oscars went from like 5 movies to like a bazillion, and then it's just like, which one did we choose? Oh well, which one's the most politically convenient to fucking choose this year? Oh, did somebody die? Well, he gets the Oscar, obviously, right? Because it didn't matter if he's the fucking best or worst. It's just, would we look like an asshole for not giving a dead guy an Oscar? Probably. So let's fix that. But the point I was saying is it went from like 5 to a zillion. It's going to be the same thing with this. There's going to be about 50,000 people running in every election. Okay, so it's good for us. Good for us because 50,000 of the same person basically is going, hi, and we'll be on stage just going, not like that. We'll be a bit more, because like, we'll do that at the start. Like we said, it's called a Desi sandwich, right? You start with that. Or you start with, hey, I'm Des, and then you move to the shit that nobody wants to hear. You're all a load of shit. You're all opportunists, blah, 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 blah. And then we get back to the other pieces. Okay, so what are we doing? What's the idea? This is like the it's not really a sandwich, though. I had the thought, because we're talking about the good and the bad. It's more like, do you know what it's like? It's a bit like it's like a delizia. Or it's like a ice cream. Nah, but that's still 2 pieces of thing. We need to come up with a better analogy. Because it's not a sandwich. It's not a sandwich. There's no start, beginning. There's no start, middle, and end. Or what you could say is that the initial thing is the thing. So if you tell me problem is piece of bread. So, piece of bread, then we get to smelly tuna. We have to get through the mounds of smelly tuna and then get to the bottom piece of bread, which is the solution. And the solution is going to cause some other fucking problem. So then we have to carve through that fucking dirt, figure out what the situation is there, and then lo and behold, another fucking piece of bread. And it's like a endless fucking, it's like, like a club sandwich, like a triple decker. It's like that, but it's like an infinite decker. And you just slowly bring everything to a better place than it was before. Or maybe not. Maybe you just do all that fucking work and it's just useless, because at the end of the day, it's like the same shit that it always is and always forever will be. So but the point is, the Des sandwich will always end with the solution. I'm not just gonna sit here and be like, this sucks, ball. Let's just go fucking jump out a window, because we can do that at any time. We can do that at any fucking time. So before we go do that, let's make sure that we can do give things a shot, fail miserably, look like an asshole, dirt off your fucking shoulder. It's the Des way. It's gonna be we could have that on a mug or something. The Des way. It's the Des way. Come on, Sean.
It's not time for the old political fights. This is a moment where we have to fight.
It's not time for old politics, says a guy who keeps touting the fact that he was this guy in Obama's cabinet 10 years ago.
But briefly, why
it's the only reason you hear
endorse your
political establishment.
All right, they endorsed my opponent because some of those same captains remember Eric Adams in 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement Who Care, who fought against abuse of stop and frisk, who fought against heavy-handed policing, who fought against treating our young people for marijuana arrests. Okay. So of course they knew that Eric is going to be a voice. All right.
He's the only Desi can talk in the third person.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Garcia, a centerpiece of your plan is a gun buyback program that would pay $2,000 per gun, 10 times more than what the city offers now. Why wouldn't this fuel the flow of even more illegal guns on the streets of New York City?
That's true.
If they could be sold at such a profit?
We have a gun crisis in the city of New York. We have seen an uptick in violence, and we've gone from a pandemic to an epidemic of crime. I'm going to use every tool in the toolbox, including the gun buyback program, but also an expansion of the gun suppression division of the NYPD, including having neighborhood policing where they actually have the time to engage and rebuild trust. So we have the clearance rates of the crime that's occurring. And I've committed to getting 10,000 guns off the streets of New York. And I know that many agree with me that gun buybacks work. The Attorney General was out this past weekend making sure that there was a gun buyback program happening in Queens. I am the mayor who is going to deliver for New Yorkers, to deliver safer streets, to deliver a more livable New York City, because I have been doing the work for the last 14 years, serving you, and that is the mayor that you deserve.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Ms. Garcia. I don't think I heard an exact answer about the price, but we have to
I'm
move
just
on.
gonna start picking everybody's
Mr. McGuire,
nose.
one focus of your strategy is naming a deputy mayor for public safety. How would adding another layer of bureaucracy between you and your police commissioner help to reduce crime?
It's called accountability. First, let me be very clear. New Yorkers, crime is out of control.
Is
It's
it
up
though?
200% in
Is it
shootings.
though?
In Brooklyn, it's up
up.
1/3, which is more than any other borough. And while Eric may be packing, and while Maya may have a specialized force for which she pays, that is not going to work. It is neither stop and frisk, nor is it defund. My plan is to make sure that we have specialized, specially trained officers who can go into the precincts, the top 10 precincts where the gun violence is occurring. That's number one. Number two, we need to make certain that those people, the intelligence that we have, we can use that intelligence. Number three, we need to go against the iron pipeline, I-95, where the guns are manufactured, and how they end up in the top 10 precincts. We also need to invest in the violence interrupters, many of whom are endorsing me because they recognize that the politicians of the past have failed. Gun violence in the neighborhood is up, and they've done nothing other than talk about stop and frisk.
Everybody should get like
The
an
community is not in
introductory
favor,
pick of the
and/or
nose.
talk about defund.
Ms.
We also
McGuire,
need to
we
make
do have to
certain.
move on. I'm sorry, time is up, but I did want to just do a quick follow-up. How is it accountability if it's someone else other than you? If it's
Because
another-
today, this administration has essentially abdicated their accountability for what takes place with law enforcement. My deputy mayor for law enforcement, for public safety, would be directly involved in the day-to-day management of the NYPD, and New Yorkers directly involved in the neighborhood so that we
All
can.
right,
Okay,
Mr. McGuire.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alan?
Can I get actually a?
Ms.
Yeah,
Wiley, I'll give you 15 seconds. Please, go ahead.
So, we're having the wrong conversation about public safety, and we can name call all we want, but it doesn't change the fact that when Justin Wallace, the 10-year-old boy who was shot and killed in Far Rockaway, had a community vigil, the community vigil was
flick it this way.
sponsored by violence interrupters who
That
said,
looked like I was
we
hitting
can
in the face.
keep
I
our
wasn't
people
hitting in the
safe
face.
if we address
Although, you know, if
trauma
that's what you
and mental
interpreted,
health.
then
that starts
you
today.
know.
That is public safety.
Question will
We're
continue.
We're just
Right.
picking. I was doing an
Right.
introductory because we just decided it's
All right.
15 seconds ago. We're doing. Everybody's getting an introductory
Do you
pick
want
of the
to
nose.
cut the NYPD budget in half and create a new department that handles mental health, homelessness, and drug use? But that takes time, and voters say they're worried about the rise in crime today. How do you make New Yorkers safer on day one?
Thank you for the question. The first thing I'll say is actually that the reality of it is that the NYPD budget is much bigger than the $6 billion operating line that is often talked about in the media. It's much closer to $11 or $12 billion. And I have called for, yes, a reduction of $3 billion in the NYPD budget. We have the largest budget for our police force in the country, if not in the world. If there were a correlation between policing and public safety, we'd be the safest city in the world. But the reality of it is we have got to move away from these systems that oppress our communities. We know that policing is not keeping us safe. All of the violence is happening under their watch. We have to stop doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. We have the opportunity here to create a community first responders department that will provide responses that are appropriate to the crisis, responses for homelessness, responses for mental health issues, responses for substance abuse. These are the issues that our city is plagued by right now, and that's what we need to address.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Mr. Stringer, you want to slash $1 billion from the NYPD, but during your 8 years as the city's
That's a good
fiscal
fucking point.
watchdog,
She made a good fucking point.
You did not advocate for cuts of this magnitude. Why
That's
didn't
true.
you raise these concerns before you were running for mayor?
Well, first of all, as a kid who grew up here in the 1970s in Washington Heights, I remember when there were 2,000 murders a year, and I remember our community being a roving crime scene. So I want to say first and foremost, as mayor, I'm not taking my kids or any kids back to those days. What I'm advocating for is pretty simple. It's about chewing gum and walking at the same time. We do have to have a police response, meaning we have to take senior officers and focus on the hot spots where the guns and the crime is happening. We have to up the clearance rate, just what I've advocated for as a candidate for mayor. We're at an all-time low of 26%. We also have to make sure that we attack the bureaucracy at One Police Plaza, which has grown 76% over the last many years. And we have starved the precincts, not just of police resources, but also the violence interrupter programs, the community programs that actually keep kids out of the criminal justice system. I suggested cutting $265 million per year and reinvesting it in the programs that keep kids away from the criminal justice system. So it's not $1 billion a year. It's $1 billion. It's 265 over 4 years.
I'm not sure we heard an answer as to why you didn't raise these concerns until more recently.
I have been talking about these issues for many, many years, and at forums, when it came time to be mayor, it was time to get specific. And when I was asked, I gave the response.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stringer. Mr. Donovan, last month you attended a small protest in honor of George Floyd, where at one point a leader of your group used a megaphone to shout at some members of the NYPD, using words like pigs and racists. You were silent.
Why are they just
As mayor,
dwelling on
would you
this
continue to
shit?
participate in similar protests?
I condemn those words, and I want to be clear. At this moment, we need
This
a
debate
police
is
department that is focused on two clear things: both reducing
one
violence
person on this
and
thing
guns in our city,
has stood up and actually said,
making sure that we have respect for every single New Yorker,
relax.
especially in our Black and brown communities. To reduce gun violence and to create safety, we need to make sure that our police are focused on doing exactly that, not asking them to be mental health experts with our homeless or patrol the hallways of our schools. We also need to make sure that we're investing in the solutions in our communities that break the cycle of mental health and violence that we're seeing on our streets and on our subways. When I was housing commissioner, I created a program to help folks coming out of Rikers get housing and services they needed. Years later, the vast majority, over 90%, were stably housed, getting back to work, and hadn't reoffended. It's now been replicated in almost 30 cities around the country.
Yes or no?
That's the kind of work that I would do as mayor.
Mr. Donovan, yes or no, please, would you continue to participate in similar protests?
I was clear that those are not my words. I condemn any kind of hatred at anyone in our community.
Yes or no, so
No,
But this is a
you're
broader
shut up.
question about
Shut up.
policing and about how we reduce violence in
All
our
right,
city.
candidates, we're going to move on with a quick lightning round. at
This is how
point.
it. No,
A
you
few
know what?
questions,
This
looking
is
for
so
fast
stupid.
answers. A show of hands on this first one. Police officers on the subway. Raise your hand if you believe. there
Can you
should be
stop
more
talking about
officers
it?
On trains and platforms.
That's not the only fucking thing happening.
All right. So acknowledging here,
What?
Mr. and platforms. Officers on the subway. She's looking for fast answers. A show of hands on this first one. Police officers on the subway. Raise your hand if you believe there should be more officers on trains and platforms. All right. So acknowledging here, Mr. Stringer, Ms. Morales, Ms. Wiley have not raised their hands. All the other candidates have raised their hands.
Yes.
More
Yes.
officers on
Fucking
trains and
deal with
platforms.
it.
Education, another show of hands, candidates. Raise your hand if you would support a longer school day to make up for the learning loss that has occurred because of the pandemic.
No.
All right, again, those, Ms. Morales and Mr. Stringer have not raised their hands. All the other candidates have raised their hands
What
for
are
a
you-
longer school day.
What
to
are you
address the
talking
pandemic.
about, longer
This
school
question
day?
for all of you, Bill de Blasio asked you for a role in your administration. What job would you give him? And we're looking for a short answer. Please, we'll begin with you, Mr. Adams.
I would sit down with the mayor and ask the question, what would you have done differently? Just as I've asked over 270 professional in different industry areas.
All right.
Because when you're looking in the rearview mirror, you learn a lot. And I would sit down and say, what would you have done differently?
So you can't name a current role that you would give him.
I wouldn't hire him
Okay.
in administration, but I would seek to get advice as I do with all the previous mayors.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Garcia.
I would not hire him into my administration.
Mr. Stringer.
You know, it's bad if the de Blasio alumni won't hire him, so why should I? The reality is I wouldn't hire him, but I do agree with Eric that when you have an ex-mayor, ex-elected officials, I certainly would want
Thank you,
to
Mr.
sit down with
Stringer.
him.
Mr. McGuire.
I would not hire him. I would ask him how he thought his pre-K program was progressing and what he could have done differently or what he could have done better.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. Ms. Wiley.
You know, this is one of those questions that I get sad when we get asked in these debates because Mayor de Blasio is term limited. He's no longer going to be the mayor. And the only issue is what we're going to do for the people of the city of New York. And what I am going to do is bring down class sizes. I'm going to keep people safer by recognizing some
That has
greater
nothing.
police
What are you? Where are you? What are
accountability.
you
Ms. Wiley,
talking
would you
about?
consider him for any role in administration? Should he ask for one?
I am not going to offer a position to the mayor
Okay.
who
Thank
has
you, Ms.
not
Wiley.
asked for one either.
Mr. Donovan.
My answer is no. At this moment where we're rebuilding from crisis, we need change in this city. We need to move away from the politics of the past 8 years of a mayor who's demonized
And go
divided
to a
us,
president from
and
8 years
we
ago.
need new leadership in this city.
All right, thank you.
Not
You
for
all
us.
biting the hand that feeds. All of you.
I really wish we would honestly, I really wish we would move away from this ongoing sort of bashing of the current mayor. I would not offer him a position. I think it's time for us to look forward and think about how it is we need to transform the city so that we can meet the needs and the demands of New Yorkers.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morales.
today.
Mr. Yang.
People are looking for a change. He wouldn't want a job in my administration. I wouldn't give one to him.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
Okay, many New Yorkers feel that homelessness and mental illness on the streets have gotten worse in recent years, and it's been compounded by the pandemic. Billions of dollars have been spent on housing, shelters, and outreach over the decades, and yet here we are. What is one specific, tangible thing you would do that has not been tried before? You each have 1 minute. We begin with you, Mr. McGuire.
What has not been tried before, New Yorkers, is to build truly affordable housing. Today, we have 50 to 60,000 or so New Yorkers who are in homeless.
How are you gonna do that
Those who are
if you're
homeless families, somewhere
a
between 25
Citibank
and
guy?
30,000. Those who are homeless men, 15,000, and homeless women, because of abuse, are in the streets. The shelter system does not work, has not worked, because many New Yorkers who are homeless decide they don't want to go into shelter. So my plan is to go from homelessness to home ownership. 350,000 units, 10,000, 10% more than what we built today. What has not been done over this administration and over many of the prior administrations is to build deeply affordable homes. What has been done is build homes that are well north of what New Yorkers can afford. New Yorkers should not have to pay more than 30% of their income in rent. We have examples like this today in the Bronx called the Bronx Commons. I would replicate those kinds of complexes which work. Those people pay formerly homeless up to the people who can pay a lot more.
Thank
but
you,
at
Mr.
least
McGuire.
they have shelters over their head, roofs
Thank
over
you.
their heads.
Mr. Stringer, one specific thing you would do that has not been tried before.
We talk a lot about homelessness, but we never talk about providing a home. And I would do that with my housing plan. Both Bloomberg and de Blasio built more housing for people who make over $150,000 a year or more than for people who make $40,000 or $30,000. And what do we have to show for it? A homeless crisis, the likes we've never seen, where we're now spending $3.2 billion managing a failed system. We used to be spending 8 years ago $1.6 billion. It's out of control. How would I do it? Here's the specifics. First of all, it's called universal affordable housing. Any new development would set aside 25% for truly affordable housing. That's part one. Part two is I would return thousands of vacant property that the city owns back to the people, to community-based organizations, working with neighborhood people to create a housing plan with a redirected subsidy that would build the housing that we actually need. This is not an original idea. LaGuardia did it with public housing. And then we built Mitchell-Ama housing.
LaGuardia.
Patch gave abandoned buildings back to communities. This
Thank you,
mayor
Mr.
made a
Stringer.
deal with luxury developers to build affordable housing. That
Thank you,
changes
Mr.
on day
Stringer.
one when I'm mayor.
Ms. Garcia.
We have had a shelter first program rather than a housing first program. Under my mayoralty, we are going to get people out of shelters and into homes because housing heals. It makes it possible for you to get an education, to get a job.
Where? How are you
But
gonna
we
do that?
have to build affordable housing, and I'm committed to 50,000 units of affordable housing, as well as 10,000 units of supportive housing for those who are suffering from mental illness or from substance abuse. We also need to increase the voucher that the city gives to people to something close to the market. There was recent legislation passed, and I'm very excited that it should go into effect. You know, I am not running to get the title of mayor. I am running to do the job of mayor because New York City needs someone who is going to roll up their sleeves and solve the impossible problems. And that's why the New York Times and the Daily News and Planned Parenthood and the League of Conservation Voters and Streets PAC endorsed me.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Mr. Adams, do you have an idea of how to solve this problem that has not yet been tried?
This is not a political conversation. For me, it's a personal one. I say it over and over again, growing up as a child in South Jamaica, Queens, carrying a garbage bag full of clothing to school every day because my mother thought we were going to be thrown out as children. And she did not want us to be embarrassed by not having a change of clothing. Turning that corner, hoping not to see the marshals there to throw us out. I know we can solve this homeless problem. First, we need to break it down into the categories that they are, children and families. Let's keep them in their homes. Hooray to the city council for lifting the vouchers. Second, single adults. We can retrofit our hotels in the outer borough, turn them into kitchenette, a new version of SRO, and then let's go deal with our street homelessness. Those are mental health illnesses. Fountain House, I am going to invest heavily in programs like that because they're cost effective, wraparound services, supportive housing, building that trust between street homelessness and everyday New Yorkers. We can turn this problem around.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. I just want to make it clear, Mr. Yang, you're up next. This question is about street homelessness and mental illness on the streets. Your approach, something that hasn't been tried before.
This question is so important because the fact is mentally ill, homeless men are changing the character of our neighborhoods. A woman my wife Evelyn is friends with in her mom group in Hell's Kitchen was punched in the face by a mentally ill man. Sent a picture of her bruised face around the mom group, spread like wildfire. This is happening in New York City, and we're not talking enough about it. Families are leaving as a result. In East Harlem, the neighborhood has been changed. Upper West Side, the neighborhood has been changed. We owe our people and our families better than this, and I'm frustrated by the political nature of these responses. I mean, we're not talking about housing affordability. We're talking about the hundreds of mentally ill people we all see around us every day on the streets and the subways. We need to get them off of our streets and our subways into a better environment. And when you ask what I'm going to do differently, I'm going to rebuild the stock of psych beds in our city because the number's gone down 14%. It should be going up 100% until there are resources necessary for anyone who's mentally ill to not be on our streets. It's not right for them. It's not right for our city. There will be no recovery until we resolve this. I will fix this, New York.
Thank you, Mr. Yang.
That is the greatest non-answer I've ever heard in all of our debates. Not one specific idea, not one specific plan. You started out this campaign talking about using hotels. Now you're into psych beds. How much is this going to cost, if I could ask you? That's the real question.
Scott,
do you have any idea?
Do you have any idea on the amount if families leave?
I will,
because of the quality that you're seeing around us. I can't believe you're attacking me.
Let me tell you how much
you think we can't afford this?
This is a teaching moment.
We can't afford not to do this.
You can't just walk up and say psych beds for all. This is not how the next mayor has to comport themselves. We need specifics.
All right.
Okay, Ms. Morales, you're up.
I watch him not give
Please.
specific. The whole
Thank
thing
you.
is
So the first thing I want to say about this is that, just to be clear, mental illness and mental health challenges are not crimes. And we have to make sure that we're separating those things. In terms of housing, I have spent over a decade making sure to connect homeless LGBT youth, homeless foster care youth, homeless people with mental illness, homeless people with substance abuse to housing. We have not made the commitment that we need to make to ensure that we are providing housing as a human right and housing for everyone. The first thing we need to do is to move away from the $3 billion that we currently invest in our shelters and begin to invest those dollars in the creation of permanent, affordable, really affordable housing for all people, right? Because Andrew's talking about the people that are afraid and that are leaving, but the people that are actually suffering deserve the kind of care and attention just as much as anyone else. And we need to prioritize providing those services for them. And that's the experience that I have, and that's what I would provide as mayor of New York City.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. Mr. Donovan, we know that you're an expert in housing, but what most street homeless people want is often for outreach workers who engage them to just go away. What would you do differently to bring those people indoors?
Well, you're right. This is the issue that called me to public service 3 decades ago. And I'm outraged that we have more people sleeping on our streets, in our subways, in our shelters than we've had since the Depression. First thing we need to do is keep people in their homes. There's billions of dollars of rental assistance available from the federal government, but we haven't put it to work quickly to keep people in their homes. Second, we need to make
it's
sure
just such a shitty
that
system, isn't
we
it?
are
The whole
focused
fucking thing.
on the problem of housing, not shelter. We need to reimagine our right to shelter as a right to housing and put that first. You know, I was talking to Charmian today when I was giving out meals with City Relief.
Did I pick his nose?
She's afraid as a domestic violence survivor to go into shelter, shared shelter, where she's at risk. And the third thing we need to do is connect that housing to services. It's called supportive housing. I would build 2,000 more units of it a year. This is exactly how we made so much progress when I led the homelessness strategy for President Obama. We ended veteran homelessness in 80 cities. Mental health and housing can help with supportive housing.
Ms. Wiley, it can take hundreds of engagements with a homeless individual to coax them indoors. The city claims to have brought in 4,200 homeless people from the streets in recent years. What would you do that they haven't already tried?
You know, look, Shams DeBaron, who was one of the men at the Lucerne on the Upper West Side, is someone I've talked too much about this and is in housing right now, had been homeless, street homeless, substance addicted. When the response was to send more police into the subways where he was riding because the congregate shelters were so dangerous, he asked for help.
That's
and
true.
what he got
That's
was
true.
handcuffed and taken to jail. And our largest psychiatric facility in this city is Rikers Island. So let me just say right now that the premise is wrong because we have the ability to do outreach in the right way, but we simply have to use the right people. And the more we fail to recognize that we're spending $480,000 a year on that psychiatric facility we call Rikers, we're missing how we end street homelessness.
$480,000
I am the
a
only
year?
candidate who has a subsidy program that will subsidize the rent for every New Yorker family of 3 earning $54,000 or less.
Thank you, Ms.
So
Wiley.
you don't pay more than 30% of your rent
Thank you.
on income on rent.
And by the way, how do you pay for that?
I pay for it with relief dollars that it's coming from the stimulus package and the savings we get because we spend $3 billion, up to $80,000 a year on putting people in congregate shelters that are dangerous, that they don't want to be in and don't provide support services. And we already talked
Okay,
about
Ms. Wiley,
Rikers,
thank you.
$480,000 a year, more than
we
any
have to move
other
on with our
city to
question,
house
Ms. Wiley. Alan
who have
Villafani.
not been
Thank you.
convicted of a
With
crime.
Alan.
Thank you, Ms. Wiley. Coming out of the pandemic, a lot of undocumented New Yorkers are struggling. And we
this
might
one's
not
right.
know how much they're struggling because they're often afraid to come forward. What's the biggest risk to undocumented people living in New York City, and how do you propose to solve it? You have 1 minute answer, and Ms. Wiley, I start with you.
Well, you know, as a civil rights lawyer who is proud to help get past the first sanctuary city law in this city, I'm going to start with understanding, one, that when I have mayoral control of the New York City Police Department, there will be no support or help for ICE in preventing any of our people from getting the services and supports they need. But I'm also the candidate that recognizes so much of who our essential workers
You know what I'm
were,
realizing, too?
who didn't get a dime in relief. I am so proud that
Oh, I am
Albany has
going.
fixed that thanks to the activism of organizers. But look, I have a plan called the Universal Care Plan that's going to create $5,000 grants each year to put in the pocket of the neediest New Yorkers. And people who do not have papers in this city are still our residents and will be eligible for this program, and a health plan, because those are some of the top costs of living, includes childcare, so we'll have universal drop-off centers as well. But
everybody
also
just make noise now.
health care, because we have 600,000 New Yorkers who don't have a health insurance card. I'm going
Thank
to
you,
create
Ms.
a city
Wiley.
health insurance plan for undocumented immigrants.